I am here, as the consultant on this project for the region. I'm only here in this session for the first portion, as I have a counseling load. I have students waiting back at another college for me to take care of at a certain point. So I'm going to welcome you in. If there's any questions for me as the lead for military CPL in career technical education in our region, I can field those before I jump off the call. But then I'm going to hand it over to Pedro and Janelle and Peggy as they'll run through the technical training. This is really for technical MAP use, military articulation platform. It is the tool for our military articulations, connecting your curriculum with ACE and basically working through your workflow. So we are still refining and cleaning up the video for full production of our ACE training from last week, but know that we'll have that out to the field. We'll shoot out communication today referencing that. It looks like next week we should have the full training cleaned up and ready for production. I also wanted to let you know, I've been asked from a few of the colleges, hey, what are our next steps? Now we have some of our faculty trained. Now we feel comfortable explaining how ACE works with instructional faculty with doing these exhibits. What's the next thing? What's on my radar in the next month or so? So first thing that I'd like to really encourage, if you're into writing down notes, I always give homework assignments. I'm a faculty at heart, so I'm gonna give those kind of marching orders. First, you need to make sure that you do have your MAP team set up and ready to orchestrate everything for military CPL on your campus. So not just a MAP lead, but having some team members. As Pedro and Mark and I have talked with many of the campuses over the last few months, most colleges do have a developed MAP team, but a group to work on all of your military articulation. And the big piece that is timely right now is the change in BOG policy. BOG approved new Title V regulations for the big umbrella of credit for prior learning, including credit by examination, portfolio review, everything, which does house military CPL. That MAP team should be part of the discussions on your new board policy. But Title V, Section 55050, again, 55050, it explains how that board policy and administrative regulation needs to be written. It's been sent to all the campuses, but please get involved with that. It's a 10+1 issue, meaning with AB 1725, it's the shared governance policy for our state. Faculty really own curriculum, so your academic senate and your faculty need to be involved in that discussion. And we must have, every college, every district must have that completed by the end of December. So there's a quick timeline in creating a new policy. So please get involved in that. Your MAP work group should be included in that governance process for that policy. Second thing, I highly recommend that as you now move forward, you've had some faculty trained, you've learned about ACE, that you target about 3 to 5 different disciplines for you to route through the MAP system. So there are some low-hanging fruit, and I'll talk to some of the disciplines that you might consider, but there's 2 separate methods. One is target some disciplines that have very, very clear articulated crosswalks. So there are some areas in CTE that is very obvious that the Department of Defense trains in the same manner that we train in higher education. So I'll run through a couple of those. That's an easy method because you have clear crosswalks for your discipline faculty. The second method that some colleges do with this is they pull joint services transcript. They work with their veterans counselor, their evaluator, or their certifying official and find some really common training in joint services transcripts among your current students. So if you use that method, you can directly apply some of that credit with your current students if useful. Eric can maybe speak to a little bit of that when he talks about his portion on when you look through a joint services transcript, what do you want to give credit for? And what's applicable from a veterans counselor or a certifying official perspective. And then the third item that I'm really going to encourage, once you get trained by Pedro and Janelle and everybody about MAP, how MAP works, and you feel comfortable with that, and it's set up for your workflows on your campus, they might be different from another campus, but when MAP's set up and you're ready to go, you want to then re-engage your faculty directly and possibly even offer a faculty training on your own campus to talk about what does the process look like locally? What is our native process for our own institution? If you don't go out and train your own faculty, they're going to start receiving emails from MAP or they're going to get phone calls about this, and they're not going to know what they're talking about. They're not going to be able to handle the workflow, and we don't want to have you guys start off on the wrong foot and maybe frustrate some of the instructional faculty, especially with all the new technologies we're all learning right now. We want to make sure that you do prepare them for when they receive these military articulations. So before I hand it off over to Pedro and Janelle for the training, I do want to give you some sample disciplines, and do feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions if you have anything. Some sample disciplines that are what I would call low-hanging fruit, where there's really clear articulations. Electronics and engineering technology. Again, electronics and engineering technology. A really obvious one is computer information management and computer sciences. They, they teach specific, very, very specific industry standard computer technology training within the Department of Defense that has a real nice crosswalk to some of our CIM and CS departments. Business leadership and management is another one in CTE that you will find some nice crosswalks, especially with the occupations, not necessarily the military courses, but military occupations. Foreign languages is another. And the last one I'd recommend that you really look into, if you do have coursework in this area, is administrative justice and criminal justice. Those seem to have a lot of real clear crosswalks. So those are ones that if you're going to consider starting off and dipping your toe in the water for military CPL, and the faculty in one of those disciplines, you might want to start there, or start with your current joint services transcripts and the trainings that your current student veterans have. Any questions or concerns with those pieces? No? Okay. Well, I'm going to hand it off now to Janelle and Pedro for the technical training. I hope when we all meet again, you guys feel prepared and you understand how MAP works and how it will work for your own campus. So good luck. You guys all have my email, and I'm here for you for the general military CPL side. Pedro is the expert with the technology on MAP. So go ahead, folks.
Thank you, Terrence. Good morning to all. Happy Friday to you, and thank you for joining our session today. Janelle, thank you for putting together this presentation. It looks great. Can everybody see my screen? Can you see it, Janelle?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
So we're going to walk you through the process of creating an articulation in MAP, technically the MAP technical training. Eric Benecourt, he is our Veteran Services Specialist, and he's going to go over some of the process for his department as well. So as Terrence mentioned, these are some tips that we have for getting started. Identify the occupations for your current student population, and also identify their educational goal. So as you know, right now, we're still working with the CSUs and the UCs about identifying a policy for transferability. So I would just suggest maybe focusing on students that are not planning to transfer or planning to complete a certificate or degree pattern that's native to your college. And as Terrence listed some of the quick wins, so these are some of the disciplines that I was able to narrow down, just created a lot of articulations for us. Administrative justice, business administration, construction technology, if you have that on your college, engineering technology, and also management. And I'll hand it over to Eric to discuss creating the intake process.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for attending this training on a Friday. I'm going to go over to discuss our intake process when working with veterans in MAP. One thing I do advise you is that when you do create an intake process for your institution, make sure you meet with everyone involved in the MAP team, especially your VA certifying officials, your evaluators, and anyone else who will be working with the veterans and MAP itself to create a process that best fits your institution. So this is a process that we have here at Norco College when working with veterans in MAP. During our intake process, one of our staff members will usually inform a veteran about MAP. If they are not interested in MAP, then we'll go ahead and proceed with the intake process as usual. But if the veteran is interested in MAP, what we do is that we set up an appointment. That way, the veteran can meet with the VA educational counselor. The VA educational counselor will discuss MAP in detail. We'll go over some of the implications that might be affected on the student's records if going through the MAP process. Just some of the things that might affect a veteran. Well, there's two things that might affect a veteran if going through the MAP process. One is the financial aid and maximum time frame. That refers to a student is awarded X amount of units they can take through financial aid. Once they hit a certain amount of units, I believe it's 90, I'm not too sure what the exact amount is. But once a veteran or any student hits X amount of units, then their financial aid will start being affected. So if you think about it, if we award a veteran 20 or 30 units through MAP, then they're going to go ahead and reach that 90 unit limit a lot sooner than if they wouldn't have gone through the MAP process. Another thing that our VA educational counselor discusses with the veteran when working with MAP is the BAH, Basic Allowance for Housing. So as many of you are aware, veteran has to be enrolled full-time to get the maximum housing allowance. That's 12 units during the fall and spring, and 4 units during the winter and summer. Well, if the student is going for a certificate pattern, say for example, 30-unit certificate pattern, we award the veteran 15, 20 units for that certificate. Well, there's an issue there. The issue is that the student might encounter is that they might not have enough classes for them to take during the fall or spring to be full-time, okay, because we're awarding them X amount of units. So keep those two things in mind when working with veterans. And MAP is one is a basic allowance for housing and making sure they're full-time. And the second thing is financial aid and maximum time frame. We go over other information during the counseling session, but those two things are very important for you to cover when working with veterans. Once information is discussed and the student agrees to proceed with the MAP process, then what we do is we have our student fill out a consent form. Okay, basically stating, yes, I want to go through this MAP process. He or she signs it and dates it. Once that form is been created, what we do now is we forward the form over to evaluations so they can initiate the MAP process. Once evaluations has completed their process, they inform us, letting us know, hey, this has been done. So we contacted the student. We contact the student. The student will once again meet with the veterans educational counselor to discuss the outcome and the courses he or she should be taking and the courses he or she receive credit for. That's the process we have right now at Norco College and at Riverside Community College District for the most part. But like I said, it's important for you to meet with individuals who will be working with veterans and MAP so you guys can come up with your own process that works best for your institution. Thank you, Janelle.
Thank you, Eric.
I have a quick question, Eric.
Yes.
So when the student is first referred here to the Veterans Educational Counselor to discuss MAP, how much information does that Veterans Education Counselor have to discuss? Because it doesn't look like the evaluation has occurred yet, because that happens afterwards, right? Because
Yeah, exactly. Oh, go ahead.
Yes, because then the form needs to go to the evaluations department, which probably has to do with the school and, you know, departments, etc. So how much information does the counselor initially have?
Well, the information that we discussed in the beginning is basically in detail the way MAP works, because we, first of all, our staff at, you know, the classified staff don't really have too much power in regards to, you know, explain the way courses, you know, course offerings or course listings or what he or she student needs to take. So we refer the student veteran to an educational counselor, and the information that the counselor has to that we discuss is most importantly is how MAP might affect their basic allowance for housing and how it might affect their financial aid. Those are the two most important things we have to discuss. Reason being is because if the student goes through this MAP process and we award them, like I said earlier, a lot of credits, then that's definitely going to affect, you know, the student. So we just make sure that the student understands what he or she's going to be, you know, where he or she, that they understand MAP before they go through the process.
And
Does that make sense?
just to add to that, right now our current district policy is awarding 30 units of elective credit for or off of the JST. So there might be a situation that the elective units benefits the student more than the actual course for course articulations would through MAP. Like if a student is, was had an occupation of a fire sergeant in the military, and now they want to go into engineering, it might not benefit that student to utilize MAP.
And to add to this, not to get too far into the weeds, but the school certifying handbook is basically written in compliance with federal law. Federal law says you need to apply, evaluate upfront and apply units as appropriate. The way a lot of our colleges work within that policy is when it doesn't feel appropriate for their pathway, there's guide rails for that. And that's exactly why writing that board policy administrative regulation is really important, to have a veterans counselor, have an expert like Eric and Janelle on that team, because you want those guardrails of allowing the student to apply the credit when it's useful for that student. So involving a petition process, Saddleback College has a limit of you must complete 12 units before you can petition for it. So there's different guardrails so that you can use MAP and understand where you may apply credit, but you don't need to apply it immediately day one.
You have the opportunity to decline.
Correct. Yes, the veteran has opportunity to decline if it's something that's not best for them. You can just go ahead and decline the MAP process, and we'll continue our process as usual.
All right. Beautiful.
Thank you,
Thank
Eric.
you.
Well, in addition to what Eric described, at the time that the student decides to move forward with MAP, what we allow them to do is to upload their DD-214 and JST transcript. So we have a record of all information related to the military training. Right, Eric?
Exactly. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Terence. All right. We're going to briefly go over some of the navigations features within MAP. We're going to review this in details when we do the actual demo. But at the top right, you will always see this sidebar that once you click it, it's going to allow you to see all the different options. And once you expand those options, you will see the items that you have available in the menu. At the top right, you will have your toolbar that will give you access to your settings, feedback, knowledge base, which is the help, and to update your profile. In our next slide, we thought it was important for us to focus on these two areas in your homepage, in your dashboard, because the top part, we always give you a college articulation summary, or where you are in regards to the number of qualified bets that you have for credit, how many proposed published articulations are currently in your college, and the number of courses that have been approved and ready to be awarded units. The next part has to do with the MAP workflow process. As we mentioned this before, the process starts with the evaluators, and we're going to focus on this role today. Evaluators are the ones that really do the labor work comparing the curriculum with what ACE is recommending, all the recommendations. Once they propose that articulations, that gets submitted to the faculty. Faculty can do the thumbs up or thumb down. They can approve or deny those articulations. If they approve, then they can move forward to the articulation officer. Again, the articulation officer can review, return that for further justification or notes. And then once they approve that, they move forward to the final stage in the process, which is the implementation stage that typically is being performed by the curriculum specialists, because they know everything about their curriculum. And once that's done, that's when those articulations get published. Are there any questions so far? No? Okay, let's move forward. The next screen has to do with a couple areas that you will always see. My favorites area will basically give you access to shortcuts to the most common use features in the system, and we'll show you how that works. And the bottom part of your homepage will always show you the articulation in process that you can get access right away. In addition to that, we'll give you access to the recent course activity, user activity, the denied articulations as well as the published articulations. You will notice that on every screen at the bottom right, there will always be a live chat support that you can post your questions. And then if we are unable to answer those right away, we'll take that information and get back to you as soon as we can. All right, we're gonna jump into the create articulations by course or occupation. I'm gonna turn on to Janelle now.
Thank you, Pedro.
You're welcome.
So as Pedro went over, we have a navigation menu that you can initiate the articulation from that screen. I also included a add and remove favorite option, which Pedro had went over. If you would like to make this create articulation option viewable on your homepage.
Oh, sorry, Janelle.
No problem. So no, you can go ahead. Go to the next one, Pedro. So creating an articulation for an occupation or a course is basically the same process within MAP. I'm just, starting out, I really had to get out of the mindset. I see many of you are evaluators. I had to get out of the mindset of looking at these as a course for course articulation. As many of you attended the ACE training last Friday, you know that these have already been reviewed by faculty. These are the recommendations by the faculty. And we're basically just queuing these up for our faculty review to say yay or nay. So just walking through the articulation process, we do have the option to create an articulation by the ACE occupation code or by the course. The default is the occupation code, which is viewable, and the occupation is viewable on the JST or the DD214 for your students. So this blue search recommendation box, this is where you would input your keyword. So if I wanted to search introduction to construction, I would input this in the advanced search option, select the search recommendation field, and just select the magnifying glass, and it would give me the output of every occupation or course that has that credit recommendation attached.
Yeah, that bottom list one is narrowed down by your selection criteria. We show a few icons there. A little book icon will indicate that that particular MOS has already articulations that have been created, and the courses that have been articulated will be listed right below, as you can see there. If you see like a little red icon as the one that is shown in this image, it will tell you that for that particular MOS, there are articulations that have been reviewed and have been denied by another college. By double click on those icons, you will get further information on that regard.
So this shows you the, as we discussed, the entering the keyword in the advanced search option, and also searching the recommendations by the recommendations filter. So as I mentioned, if we input human relations and I select that search recommendation box, it'll give us the output of every course or occupation that has that human relations credit recommendation attached.
All right, a little comment about the smart keyword search here that you see, in this case, human relations. MAP will give you the ability to save that smart keyword search for future use. So next time, as soon as you start typing HUM, it will immediately pop up that smart keyword that you can then use to perform your search.
And as we mentioned, the creating articulation process is similar to what you will see when you're creating your articulations like in tests. We have the option to create the articulations by the program of study or the course. So when I was queuing up a lot of these articulations, I did use the catalog courses feature more frequently, just because it was just a little bit easier to navigate for me as an evaluator. So after reviewing the occupation, we drag over the occupation to the desired articulated course. So in this example, if we drag over the 17C, which is the sound ranging crewman, and we would like to give that occupation credit for MAG 53 Human Relations, we just drag over the articulation to that course, and it would then put the articulation in the queue for us to make comments or to further review. So this is an example of creating an articulation for a course. You'll see right here the course exhibit, AR 1406-0149 version 1, shows you the title, the course number, the length of the course, as well as the instruction and the credit recommendation. So if you, and the learning outcomes. So if you look at the credit recommendation, you'll see the 3 semester hours in human resources management. And I have queued that up to be equivalent to our MAG 56, Human Resources Management, which is also the 3 units. So in this recommendations criteria, we will select the 3 semester hours in human resources from the dropdown. We would select add, and then it would populate as that was the credit recommendation that we have highlighted. And you'll see here that the credit recommendation is now highlighted. It is applicable to the skill level 40 for this occupation, and it will only be available for your students that come in with that skill level. So MAP automatically filters out those skill levels that do not receive that credit. And this articulation by occupation, it's a very similar process. Instead of looking at a course for course, you're looking at the occupational experience. So for this example, you'll see the 3 semester hours in human relations for the occupation, and that is the highlighted criteria that I'm recommending. And once we move forward, and I'm sorry, Pedro. Once we select move forward articulation, this would then go into our faculty queue so that it is viewable for our faculty to review. And just to discuss additional features in MAP, we do have an additional criteria field. So if we would like to leave a note pertaining to possibly the summary or the learning outcomes or something that isn't necessarily within the recommendation. So just an example, if I wanted to highlight in this summary, performs minor operational maintenance, and I wanted to include that in the additional criteria just to make that kind of stand out for the faculty, I can select that additional criteria option, and it will allow us to enter text for the faculty to consider. One very cool feature that we did not have when we first started this project, Pedro, is the save and search option. So if we wanted to enter the 3 semester hours in human relations, we add that criteria and select save criteria and search. It will queue up every occupation or course that has that same criteria. So from this screen, you can actually open the occupation or the course, make sure that you feel comfortable adding that credit recommendation to your queue. And as you see, you have the option to add all selected occupations or add the selected occupations. Any questions so far? And this would also be an additional feature within MAP. As we were going through and creating some of these articulations, I would notice that I was writing down other credit recommendations for that occupation. So as you see with their credit recommendations, they're listed in 3 semester hours for this, 3 semester hours for that. So it was kind of difficult to queue up that articulation and then have to go back. So Pedro actually created this option to articulate with other courses so that you don't need to leave that occupation or that course to add that articulation to the queue for a different course. So this articulate with other courses, you'll see if they had a credit recommendation for elements of supervision, I can do that from this screen and add it to the queue for our review. And then something just to know is the exhibit dates. So when you're going through these articulations, you will see the same MOS or the same occupation and possibly the same course, but they do have different years attached to that occupation or that course. So just in this example, if you see the 98C, it's listed here a few times, but they do have the different years of that occupation. And that'll be something for your college to discuss, how, what years you want to look at, how far you are going to go back, what you're going to really focus on. And we'll give a demo.
All right, thank you, Janelle. I may have to stop my screen for a moment. And let's see.
Janelle, this is Terry. Well, can I ask you a quick question?
Hi, Jerry.
Hi. Hey, so when you were talking about the dates just now, are you saying that like the individual school would look at that and they may say, I see something on there just in 1976. So they may say, hey, that's too old, that's too far back. We don't feel comfortable awarding credit. Is that what you were talking about?
Right, or I mean, when we were starting this project, honestly, we were looking at every course, every articulate or every occupation that we could queue up in our faculty's queue. But what ended up happening is we created a backlog of articulations that we might not even have a student that comes through our doors that that had that occupation in the 70s or the 60s or something of that sort. So we kind of changed our approach to focus on students that are within 45 years or occupations that have, a 45-year recency instead of just trying to queue up everything that we could.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
The URL to access MAP, we try to make it easy for you. The first part will be the name of your college. Like in this particular case, I'm selecting Mount San Jacinto College. And then a dot, and then every college will be followed by the militaryarticulationplatform.org. So once you do that, it will take you directly to your login page. In this case, I have defaulted to use Terry's user administration login, if that's okay with you, Terry. So,
Of course, yes, please.
So in this login page, as you can see, there are multiple features here in addition to logging into the system. If you forgot your password, you click on that and it will ask you for your email address that the password can be sent. If you're a new user, you can just click on the new user request, and then the administrator at your institutions will get an email and asking him or her to set you up as a user in MAP. Obviously, the administrator will be the one that will assign the role, your role in the system, whether it's an evaluator, faculty, articulation officer, or implementation. This is how your home dashboard page will look like. As we mentioned, the top sidebar can be accessible from here. Once you expand these items, then you can see all the different options that will be available based on your role in the system. You see some tiles here as your my favorite in the my favorite area. And then for instance, there is no archive articulations here, but if you just want to add it, you just right click to that option and then you can just add it. And what's going to happen now is that option now will be added to your my favorites area, as you can see that. If you decided to remove it, again, just use the remove option from the menu and that will remove it from there. Right. So once you are in the system, right now you will only have access to the stats of your institutions. But once we finish the configuration of the whole consortium, ERTC consortium colleges, in which every articulations somehow will be tied by the CID. I hope everybody's familiar with that. Then we will, as we progress on that implementation, we will give you access to other institutions' articulations that you can review and decide if you can adopt that as part of your articulation in your institution. At this stage, there is nothing in the queue for Mount San Jacinto College. I just want you all to know that the data that you will be looking on this platform is going to be test data for a period of, I would say, 30 days, and we can adjust that per institution. And what we will allow you during those 30 days is just to play with the system. Your curriculum data obviously will persist. Every change that you apply to, whether it's adding units or changing the course title, it will remain. But any articulations that you create during this process, after we finish your test, after we finish your user training, we will just clear that test data and then start fresh when it's time for you to really start creating articulations at your college. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we're gonna focus on this demo, yes, on how to create an articulation. The system has a lot of features, and then we're gonna go over those the best way we can. So I'm gonna go ahead and create an articulation, but before I do that, I'd like to highlight the fact that for all of the colleges in the consortium, we have not been able to populate all the data that MAP requires, like student learning outcomes, catalog description, program learning outcomes. And we're gonna use this time that you're gonna be becoming familiar with the system to update that, and we're gonna, our staff members are going to work with you and your IT department trying to make that phase to work as smooth as we can. And for example, if in this case for Mount San Jacinto, these are all the active courses in your catalog. But when MAP went and grabbed this data based on the information that we were provided, we couldn't locate the number of units on a specific location that will be a standard for every course. So then our MAP tool was unable to pick the number of units. Well, that's not really a problem, because from here you can, if you see anything wrong with the course title, you can go ahead and fix it right here. And someone obviously with administrative rights will be the person that will be doing this, so it doesn't get into any conflicts with your curriculum. If the number of units are missing from this list, you can select and say, for I don't know how many units the accounting 124 will have, but let's say if it's 3 units from here, you can just select. If this is a variable unit course, you can select, from 3 to 5. Not sure, but if that's the case, you can just update it right there, right? You save the changes and then the information will be saved. Okay? Any questions so far?
I have a quick question. Looking at that page that's up right there, if we look at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th one down where it says that, the one more right there, it says 776 bookkeeping, formerly 076. If that wasn't correct, we would change it back to 076. We could change the numbers, or is that numbering something with MAP? That's 776 number to the left, right there. Is that?
Yeah, you can go ahead and change this if this is not the real course title, because again, this is what we were able to pull when we grabbed the data from CurriConnect, this page that you gave us. From here, you can, make the change if that's not really what you want. If this is just a former course number, you can change it right there.
What about if the other side, the 776 is not correct? How about the other part, the 7 is that part right there?
If this needs to be changed, not a problem. We can enable that column for you to update the course number.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. We'll do that. So back to the home page, I'm going to go ahead then and create an articulation. You click on that button. And I'm going to turn over Janelle, which is the expert on doing this, and allow you and explain how will she do it.
So let's just, we're gonna, from this articulate by, oh, actually, Pedro, can you give me access to
Sure. Yeah.
use your screen?
Okay. It's blocking me, Janelle. Let me see.
It's okay, we can just walk through it, Pedro, and if you wanna just go through it, I can tell you what to select.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so with the articulate by option, if we want to search by ACE occupation, I'm sorry, ACE course, we're going to select the ACE course option. Just looking at Mount San Jacinto's courses. Pedro, can you scroll down on the catalog of courses?
From ACE or from their institution?
Right here is fine. How you were doing it.
Okay.
All right.
We can select the subject, the discipline if you want.
It's okay. Let's just scroll through it all and let's see what we have.
Okay.
So right there, we saw business communication, I believe. If you scroll back up a little bit, we can try that one. So business communication, if we want to just see what could possibly articulate with this course, we're going to type in the text box, advanced search, business communication.
Do you want to do it with an ACE course or an ACE occupation?
Let's do the course.
Okay.
And we're going to search. You might have to scroll up, Pedro. Okay, so this first one, this one looks like it was active from 2011 to 2018. So let's select this first one, DD 1402. They do have the business communication, and in the credit recommendation, you'll see the 3 semester hours in business communication. So if MSJC feels like this would be a good course to articulate with their business comm, then we will exit out of this screen and drag over that articulation.
Let me pull that business.
Okay.
All right.
So we are going to drag that over to the BADM 104. And we expand that, we'll see the articulation sitting in the queue. So we can open it up, just add any notes or just take a further review. So in the previous screen, we saw that the 3 semester hours in business comm was highlighted. So in the recommendations criteria, we're just going to select that criteria.
one comment about this is I'm logged on here as an administrator. And although MAP will allow you to create articulations, these articulations get routed to the evaluators. So I'm gonna log back in as an evaluator. And I believe, Terry, you did create an evaluator at your college, right?
What did you, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Yeah, I think you did create a user for the evaluator stage. Let me log on as the evaluator. All right. So there is the articulation that has been created. Let's get back to that edit screen. Right. So from here is now that that we can should be able to select that criteria, but let's add it as an additional criteria. Yeah, now this is not coming up in the drop down yet.
I can log on to mine. We can show an example that way if that would work better.
Yeah, we can do that, but let's just add it for now.
Okay.
Right there, and there it is. Right.
So you'll see that credit recommendation is now highlighted.
Has been added, yeah.
So with an evaluator role, you would add this criteria to the save and search option, and then it would generate every articulation or every course or occupation that has that 3 semester hours in business comm. And you can either adopt or add those or only select some based on the year recency or your students or however you wanted to do that. But it would automatically add those into the queue for your review.
Before we get out of this page, maybe we can also talk about this articulate with other courses.
Okay. So another credit recommendation you might see is the 3 semester hours in computer applications. If you feel that you have a course that would be a good fit for this credit recommendation, we can go to the articulate with other courses option.
Yeah, the fact that we have not selected that criteria, that's one now, but let's pull up one of the ones that you have created so we can illustrate that. Is that okay?
Yep.
Any particular?
Let's create an articulation so we can walk through it one more time. All right, so let's do it by an occupation this time. In the advanced search, Pedro, can you type in human relations? And you'll see these articulations that are highlighted in red. Those have been denied. What we found was working as we were going. If we saw a recommendation that had a 1 or 2 unit semester hours attached, then we were denying that just so it wouldn't keep populating in our queue or showing that it hasn't been evaluated. All right, and I think you have to go all the way to the bottom because these ones might have been looked at already.
Need to go to the last page, or?
Yes, please.
You can see that there are about 569 occupations in A's that match that search criteria that Janelle entered. All right, we're in the last page.
All right, so scroll up a little bit, Pedro. Let's look for one that doesn't have it. So, right, go down. Okay, so this 35T, just to use this one as an example, let's open that occupation and let's take a look. So this one would be an example of one that I would want to deny just to get it out of our queue. It has the 2 in human relations, and we can show you how to do that also.
Okay.
So Pedro, go ahead and close this screen, and let's select
On the left,
MAG 53.
from the left, right?
Yes, and we're going to drag over the 35T, Pedro, to the MAG 53. And that was 35T.
Should be at the bottom. Let's see. Wow, a lot of occupation for this.
All right, so there is the third one.
This one.
Yes. So if we select the 2 in human relations from the dropdown, we'll select add. And we're gonna, in the evaluator notes, because if we are denying an articulation, then we are gonna leave a note as to why. So we'll say 2 in human relations for this occupation.
Not enough.
Yep, that is good. And then we will just move forward as denied. So this one we won't necessarily have to send for faculty review. You can just cross it off your list that it's been reviewed and it doesn't meet the criteria.
Are there any-
Do not articulate. Next one over. No.
No. Just want to show.
Okay. You're scaring me.
There's always a confirmation before you take one of those actions.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so we can open one of these other ones, Pedro, if we want to take a look.
Yeah, like the one right below.
Sure.
Okay.
So you'll see this one has the 3 in human relations. There was a highlighted recommendation, acts as a liaison with civilian counterparts. And that was just an additional criteria for the faculty to consider. And you'll see, so just really quick, this recommendation, so you'll see the YN3, the YN2, YN1, YNC. This would be like their ranks. So it kind of took some understanding of how that all works when you're reading the JST. ACE does have a breakdown of the rankings. So if anybody wants that, I can go ahead and send that out to the group. It will definitely be a good resource when you're reviewing these, just to understand the recommendations and the skill levels a little bit better.
Just in case that if you have any additional documents you would like to attach to this articulation, MAP will allow you to upload those documents and they will be electronically saved in the system and can be accessible to anybody else further down the workflow process.
And just really quick, Pedro, at the bottom, we haven't touched on the audit trail. So there is an audit trail that you'll be able to see who initiated the articulation, if it's been moved forward by your faculty member, articulation officer, and so forth.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that, Janelle. And here's, you want to illustrate this?
Sure. So we'll illustrate the articulate with other courses option. So if that occupation had a credit recommendation that we felt we could move forward for, let's say the MAG 44, then we would, or we can just drag a sample one, Pedro, if you want to drag over that.
Okay. I'm just putting another mag. Yeah.
Okay.
54.
You can just do the 56. Let's just do the 56 because the 44 is already there.
Okay.
So we wanted to select that course.
Or they can do multiples. If they want to select them all, you can do it all at once. If, right.
Correct.
Yes.
And then we wanted to move forward those articulations. It would automatically put those in the queue for us to review.
Yeah. And you can do it by one, or you can do them all. Right.
So Pedro, can you do the save and search from this? Let's see if it generates any more articulations.
Oh, no, not working there.
So that would be the screen that we could view all of those articulations, or I'm sorry, all of the occupations or courses that have that similar credit recommendation, and we can just queue them up from that screen.
All right.
So this one we can just select move forward articulation, and then it would automatically move it forward into the faculty's queue.
So let's go back to the home page to show them what we have just done. And there are a couple ways that you can find that articulation. These controls will show you all the articulations in that stage in the process. So we can find it by clicking over here on the courses. And I'm going to filter this by subject, which was the management 56, and there it is. So from this screen, you can go back and further perform edits to that. Or alternatively, you can find it here at the drop down, same way that you did in the other page. And then as Janelle indicated, once you highlight that, you have access to the recent course activity. Once you click on that tab, MAP is going to tell you everything that happened with that course. You can see the details by expanding that. If you want to see the recent user activity, which means these users that have been logged on, you can click on that, see the deny articulations and publish articulations. You can further sort this list by subject, the one that has most articulations, less amount of articulations, most number of days awaiting to be processed, or the last submitted day. Any questions? I think we can just leave the last part of the session to answer any questions, or to just go through specific areas that they might be interested to review, further review.
Terry did ask in the messages if we can review MOS 8412.
Sure.
Let's show that example.
MOS 412?
8412. Was that the MOS, Terry?
Yes, it's Marine Corps 8412.
So what would be the third one down, Pedro? Career recruiter. So this one, just looking at the recommendations, you'll see the gunnery sergeant and the master sergeant have this credit recommendation of the 3 semester hours in human resources, 3 in organizational leadership, 3 in strategic management, and the 3 in human resources. So if you offer those courses, then maybe you can queue it up for, you know, essentially all of those. Does anybody have any questions about any of these options or anything within the platform?
It would be wise to explain what you mentioned it earlier, that if they see multiple versions of that MOS, it is
Right.
different exhibits.
So you'll see right here, the 6412, they have different exhibit dates. This one ending in 98, this one beginning 98 to 2010. So if your college is focusing on certain years, then you might want to only review the 6412 within these date parameters, the 98 to 2010.
But on the other hand, if a veteran comes with their JST and you can see that they were discharged in 1997, then this is the occupation code that you want to look in that particular case.
Correct. Any questions?
No?
All right, Pedro, you want to go back to the PowerPoint?
Yes. Just a moment.
Like I said, I have found a few resources, just, you know, looking around with the ACE website about just explaining the ranks and the skill levels and what those mean. So I can definitely shoot that link out to everybody just so you have that available also.
Okay, as you can tell, this technical session was just targeted for the evaluators role. We will coordinate with you all the upcoming training sessions that will be targeted for the administrators, faculty, and for the faculty, since we already going to give you the highlights, we did not have enough time during the last Friday to further review all the features for faculty. So our purpose will be to go in detail what faculty will have to do, as well as for the articulation officer, the implementations, the curriculum specialists, and we'll going to dedicate a specific session for the Veterans Outreach. So look up your calendars, look up your upcoming emails, so we will scale that.
And I just wanted to add, like many of you, I am, you know, a regular evaluator. So it did kind of take me out of my element to look at these a little bit differently, not looking at content match, not looking at course for course equivalencies. So if you know, want to reach out, please use me as a resource. If you have a question about anything, you can feel free to contact me and I'd be happy to help.
Thanks, Janelle. I was just wondering about that. Sorry to join you all late. I had conflicting meetings, but it's nice to see everyone.
Likewise, you made it.
Yeah. Hey, so if they get stuck, if anyone gets stuck, what's the first step that you recommend?
The first step will be to contact our chat live agent.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And for there, we have a 24/7, 24 hours, 24/7 support, and we try to. If there is no one, no agent, because you are there at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can just shoot us an email and then we'll get right back to you the following day.
If you're there on the chat at 3 in the morning, there's something wrong there. So, okay, so use the chat that's in there. And You also have a feedback.
Yes, and let me,
Button.
that's a good point, Dr. Lee. Thank you for bringing that up. Let me share my screen because I have another area that I wanted to share with everybody. Within MAP, let me put this on another list here. For each institutions, we have a workspace created. So as we move further on this implementation, we're gonna give you access. You're gonna get an invite to this workspace in which you can start posting questions. If you like to take a screenshot and ask our staff members, you know, this is not too clear, or we have questions about this. This will be the best way for us to initiate that collaborations between your institutions with either the team at Norco College, Riverside, and Moreno Valley, or any of our technical support at ITTI.